Today we are going to be talking to Eric Gray, the founder and CEO of Gray Ghost Solutions. As we get started, please note that participants will be muted during the presentation and through the question and answer period. Although questions can be typed in at any time, we ask that you hold off on questions until after the presentation. This video event is produced by and is a property of Gray Ghost Solutions. The presentation images you are about to see contain stock footage that is shown to add color to events described without compromising the discretion Gray Ghost shows every client. Now that we are ready to get started, I'm turning things over to the man whose dangerous life is also his profession. Here is Eric Gray.
Thank you, Brad, for that introduction. Hello to all the participants around the world. I would like to thank Quintessentially for the warm welcome and such prestigious concierge experience. We at Gray Ghost are humbled to be able to bring you all that we have to offer. My name is Eric Gray, and I'm the founder of Gray Ghost. Who am I? I've spent over 33 years in the business. 25 of those years were in the U.S. Army. 17 of those years were with Special Forces units. After that, 5 years at the U.S. Department of State, where I worked for Secretary Clinton, Secretary Kerry, Secretary Tillerson, and then Pompeo. I've spent 3 years in the private sector. I've done trips with AMLO. I've protected and planned multiple popular and affluent clients. I've traveled the world extensively, from places like Europe to China, India, and Africa, to name a few. So why did I start Gray Ghost? I believe that the private sector was not receiving the support that it deserves. Some of Gray Ghost's recent events, we've done facilitations of medevacs to return for patients from Mexico to California. We've done medevacs for cardiac patients from Spain to Texas. What we're most proud of is helping a recent COVID patient who had not a place to go. Our chief medical officers were able to find that individual a receiving medical facility to treat that person while in transport, and on top of that, coordinate the transport to get that patient to where they needed to be. We are happy to say that that individual is now doing much better after the treatment he's received. Lastly, we've also been able to help one of the largest producers of frozen foods with their supply chain management. During the COVID pandemic, which we still have, they called upon Gray Ghost to help them with before, during, and after logistics, what was going on, what needed to be done, and how to maintain their facilities while using medical PPE, protective personal equipment. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about risk assessment and reduction, custom medical planning, support, evacuations, executive protection, and consulting. And then we're going to lastly talk about tailorable training and medical operations and business continuity. As a new soldier, I was selected before going to Desert Storm to serve in a position of higher enlistment that was normally reserved for senior enlisted personnel. From there, I never stopped progressing. I never stopped wanting to learn what was going on in the planning arena and how to solve problems. In the U.S. Special Forces, I was assigned to multiple positions, everything from intelligence to being a sniper, and then recruited into one of our nation's special missions units as the senior advisor to all things medical for the commander and to ensure that everything was taken care of for our personnel all around the world. After being recruited from the Special Missions Unit, this is where I gained my abilities and learning into the U.S. Department of State. This was started after incidents like Nairobi and also with the incident in Benghazi. I began as one of 3 individuals who would travel the globe for the next 365 days in all of the austere and crisis response elements that the U.S. Department of State had to offer. After just that 1 year, I was afforded the ability to train, recruit, and build my entire directorate and my office with people like myself in order to make sure that they were able to sustain crisis response throughout the world. This experience has shaped why I began Grey Ghost. Grey Ghost at its core is the experience of over 150 years of like-minded individuals who want to serve, to take pleasure in solving problems from all aspects, from medical, security concerns, planning, business continuity, and training. So let's talk about risk and reduction. I'm going to share my screen with you, as you can see there. So risk and reduction. What you see here is a picture of the atmospherics in Tanzania. The top picture shows after a bombing that happened at one of the embassy compounds. The lower picture shows the threat against the U.S. ambassador to Tanzania and how we had to moderate and plan and look at the atmospherics throughout the city. So what was the situation? We needed to coordinate with the FBI, diplomatic security, and the host nation. We needed to find a location to get him and his wife off the grid, understand the medical infrastructure, and we needed to think about things like logistics, lodging. Could we find a remote location that we could get this individual and his wife to in order to have them be safe, but also give him the opportunity to continue to do his daily job for the U.S. government? What you see here in this slide is the results of that. We were able to get Maasai warriors to help us while we were out in the middle of the Serengeti. We were able to get the ambassador and his wife into a relaxed state, knowing that everything was taken care of for them, while he could still communicate back to his personnel at the U.S. Embassy. In order to do this, we needed to explain to the ambassador all the things that was going to take place. We like to ensure that the personnel, our clients, our principals, have the ability to help with the planning and to make sure that the things are the way that they need them to be, all while giving them the proper consultation to continue to do the job that they need to do. This is no different than corporate folks all over the world, for commercial reasons or political reasons, who need to travel or may have something that comes up against them. Some examples of that: Elon Musk. People didn't realize that he was being tracked. Now, this is for a lot of folks. Unless you have placed your planes on the FAA or your country's list to not be monitored, anyone can go look up that plane and find out where you are and where you are going. Or think about the top Dutch grocer, Gerrit Jan, who was kidnapped, tormented. Not only did they do this to him, they involved his family. And even after paying the ransoms, the individual was still found dead by the authorities. People like CEO of Bitcoin in the UK was also kidnapped. He was traveling and had 6 armed persons wearing baklava's kidnap him for $1 million in ransom. Lastly, the Hong Kong business magnate Teddy Wang, who they've never found his body, but his family also was tormented, and this went on for years, trying to figure out what he needed to do. So let's pause from that for a second and think about medical planning. So this next slide depicts medical planning, support, and evacuation. The top picture that you're looking at shows a hospital that I visit in India while working for Secretary Kerry. The bottom picture shows you a medical assessment that I did in Burkina Faso while supporting Department of State when they didn't have any personnel to actually go and visit these locations. So let's get to one of the situations that we had. We had a medical evacuation of a medical citizen, American citizen from North Korea. What did we need to do? We need to understand the concerns of the nation along with the U.S. We needed to keep a low profile in all aspects of the operation. We had to coordinate ambulatory care and make sure that while in that ambulatory care, they were receiving the best medical treatment possible. Now, these pictures that you see here were not taken by our personnel. What you will not see if you scour the internet is any of our personnel actually being shown. We like to stay behind the scenes. So what you see on the outset photo is the medical staff that were receiving the individual and his family. What you do not see is any of the Grey Ghost personnel anywhere in the picture. The inset that you see was for continuity. We needed to keep in contact with the U.S. government, with the family, and they wanted to show that we had the patient and were in flight. When you have people that travel abroad, such as yourselves, a lot of times we seem to think that our countries will do more than what they have in store for you. They have you reach out to your local embassies and consulates in order to make sure that you're signed up for their traveler programs. However, they will point you in the right directions, but it is not upon them to take care of your safety. It is not upon them to get you to definitive care if something were to happen while you're on your trip, whether that's business or with your family. So let's transition over to executive protection and consultation. The picture you see here is Secretary Kerry in the background and myself in the foreground. This was doing Vibrant Gujarat in India. Once again, finding myself there in order to look at the medical infrastructure, pay attention to the surroundings, and be ready in the event that the Secretary of State had any medical issues. So here, one of our situations is with the president, the now president of Mexico, AMLO. During the last portions of his campaign, he wanted to travel through the area of Sinaloa. If any of you here are familiar with Sinaloa, it is one of the most dangerous populations of Mexico. It is known to drug cartel kings such as El Chapo, the Felix brothers, and so on. With this, as we all know, AMLO says that the people will protect him. However, my client, who I was working for at the time with Grey Ghost, still needed to have that security that he is used to having. In this world, in the executive protection world, we say that crossing bubbles. So while our protectee is my client, who you cannot see here, we are also with one of his good friends, the president. So we have to take into account the actions that nefarious people may have for the president could also translate and transfer into our client. So what you see on the lower inset is me walking near where my client is located, but also keeping an eye on the now president to Mexico. The upper onset is me circled, but you can't see me, but we have different personnel. We did coordinations with local municipalities. We did coordinations with ambulance services. We did coordinations with local medical facilities. Not only that, we had local law enforcement that even the president himself had no idea that he had people on him. His security advisors want no security on him whatsoever. However, we were able to remain discreet and to keep the client and the president safe during this last transition. We needed to make sure we had a communications plan. And lastly, throughout all of this, in the middle of this, while he does not want security, nor wants the picture of having security, he turned to my client, and the president said to him, "I have noticed your guy. I am actually glad that he is here because I don't know who is with me at the moment, and especially after being enthralled around so many different people." So lastly, let's talk about tailored training, medical marksmanship, and just mindset. In this picture here, you will see that we are training one of our clients in the art of marksmanship, showing them how to move throughout a residence or a structure in order to get to their principles. The second picture is what you will see is our mindset. We have in-house psychologists. What we do is ensure that the personnel that you have working in and around you are the proper people. Do they have the mindset? Do they have what it takes in order to get the job done? There are many out there in this environment who do not have that mindset that you are looking for. Throughout this training, Gray Ghost, our network of instructors, we work with organizations from all sectors to build a capacity for their staff, C-suite, security, business continuity, and planning. We work close to develop a tailored program for you and your personnel, whether that's on the range training, whether that is doing medical, whether that is a desk side, because you are getting ready to travel. What should you take with you? Do you have a small medical kit? What hospital should you be using? That is what we do here at Gray Ghost. So what have we talked about today? We've talked about risk assessment and reduction, custom medical planning, executive protection, consulting, and tailorable training. These are the things that we will do for you. I am sure right now as you sit and you listen to me speak, there are certain incidents or things that happen to you during travel or things that you've thought about while you're in your companies. Was it actually completed properly for you? Was it planned the right way? We're here to help you. With that, I'd like to conclude my speaking to you. I appreciate the time that each of you have spent because I know time is valuable. And I will turn the floor over for any questions that you might have, moderated by Brad. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric Gray. That was a very impressive presentation. In order to ask a question, look at the bottom of your screen. There's a folder that says Q&A. You can type in your question and we can present them. One question we often get from potential clients is, do you protect just the client or is his family included, special needs children, things like that? Can you explain how it works?
So what we do after we receive that initial phone call, we come up with a tailored plan. So depending on how many, as we say, principals that you have, if you are a solo principal, of course, we are going to protect you. We're going to come up with a plan. We're going to let you help us in doing that in order for you to feel comfortable in what we are doing. Now, if you have special needs children or you have multiple people, of course, as we look at that plan, as we look at how it is tailored, we will have to come up with a solution that encompasses your entourage and ensure that we have enough personnel in order to get everyone to definitive care and to safety. So with that, I would always say, reach out to us at Grey Ghost. You can see the information on your screen, and then we can come up with that tailored solution for you.
We have a question here. Do you train or consult private security teams for high net worth families, et cetera?
Yes, we do. So, for example, with our client in Mexico, we have also been able to train other individuals and other personnel. With that, we write a letter for them to get a visa. We have brought them to the United States to our training facility, and we have helped them with marksmanship, with medical, and explaining to them how we conduct close protection for that client. And usually, sometimes the clients want us to come down to their location, which we can. But we also like to have people come to the United States because it gives us the ability to train sometimes in multiple ways that we cannot.
Question came in, will this information be available in Spanish?
Yes, we have multiple linguists. I also speak German. We have Spanish speakers. And so if there's anything that needs to be done, we've translated our training sessions into Spanish. I've spent a lot of time in the area myself, un poquito, but I also understand a lot of the language and can help with that.
Another question we have is, how many clients could you take on before you thought your resources were stretched too thin?
So fortunately for us, as many corporations have, we have partners. However, because of the extensive background of over 33 years in government and years in the private sector, I have gained a large number of personnel that I have on standby for me. With us, we like to vet, train, and ensure that the individuals that we have can actually do the job. We do not just reach out to partners or anyone of that nature and just have them show up to you. We like to do that consultation. Myself or one of our other executives will actually speak or come to you, find out what it is that you actually need so that we can tailor that program. We also like to ensure that as we have our Rolodex of individuals, we understand that sometimes in order to blend in, sometimes because of different personalities, we give our clients the choice for the individuals. So for instance, if I said that these individuals will suit your need and I gave you 3 pictures, the bio of these individuals, if you told me, I don't necessarily like what this guy looks like or he's not going to work for me, of course, we take that into consideration. And lastly, if we put someone on you and you called back to Grey Ghost and you said, hey, this individual is not going to work out, we in turn will find someone to replace that person to get your team the exact way that you want them to be.
Okay, we have quite a few more questions now. Do you recommend employing private security personnel that has proper military training, or do you think those same skills can be achieved through private training such as what Grey Ghost does?
And so it really entails, as we talk about with tailored training, planning, personnel for you, what it is that you're looking for. We understand that in some instances you have personnel that you've had for 10 plus years. You trust those individuals. However, we can train them, as you've asked the question, up to speed, knowing that it's still going to take some time. One-time training is not going to make those individuals into seasoned veterans. We use law enforcement personnel. So when we look at our training, we look at training from an aspect of a law enforcement person, training from the aspect of military personnel, and then even training from the aspect of what we would say special missions units or other governmental organizations. So we encompass all of that in order to bring you the proper trained team. And then if you want or like, we can also have just one of our consultants integrated into your team and to see the things that are not necessarily being done properly, and then create that training so that your team has the best knowledge possible.
Question came in. Do you work with any COVID-19 related evacuations, specifically those who are in high-risk areas?
And so we have spoke of that at the beginning. We've taken people, of course, from like Spain, as we said. We've taken COVID patients and got them to definitive care. We have an own set of trained medical professionals who deal with this on a daily basis. The personnel that we have and the partners that we have, they spend day in and day out working in hospital facilities. When they are not out doing concierge medicine for our clients, they are in COVID wards. We have one of our chief medical officers who is one of the top emergency medical physicians in the Baltimore area at Baltimore Shock Trauma. So we stay up to date with everything that has to do with the current pandemic.
Another question, it says, do you include dogs in any of your operations? And the question may be, do you include dogs as a rescue or as a tool? Probably address both of those.
So yes, if we needed to use dog handlers and things of that nature, once again, we have the means, we have the individuals that can do that. We've done such things in the past. Many of our medical providers have also studied animal rescue, as we've had people go down to the Bahamas during their incident. We've had people during, the Houston floods, and a lot of times there are pets and animals included in that. If you needed to have your home swept, or if you just, needed things to be sniffed out, we brought dogs in for things such as that nature. We've also talked to a couple of personnel in the training business that also have that ability.
And can you kind of go through how the process works of engaging Grey Ghost? How does the program, and how is that involved, and how does someone take part? Probably contacting your Quintessentially lifestyle manager, or you could contact us directly. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. As you have noted, Brad, of course, you can contact your Quintessentially concierge, and they can reach out to us, or you can reach out to us directly. Email is always best because we can actually see what it is that you need. There's also our web page, which you see up there, which has a consultation, or it has a contact page so that you can type in what it is that you need. And really what that does is we get back to you within 12 to 24 hours, unless is it an emergency. And in that case, the Quintessentially concierge, they have our executive numbers if need be. And so let's say you are planning a trip. We had a recent family before the Olympics was canceled who wanted to plan to go to the Olympics. So they contacted us. We were able to send them a questionnaire, ask them how many people in their family were going, what type of security did they want, Did they have any medical significant injuries or things that we needed to be concerned with? Then we put together for them a package that encompassed, a large team or a small team, medical facilities that would be there. If they wanted one of those team members to be a medical security expert, because that is one of the things that we specialize in, how far in advance they wanted to go, did they want us there before them, were they flying in a private jet, did they, so we look at all of those different aspects of it, and then we will give you a couple of different options. You choose the option that you want, and we basically go into the planning and execution mode, and we stay in contact with you until the time comes. When you land on the ground, if it is we are there before you, those gentlemen or ladies will meet you. You will already know what they look like. You will have already spoken with them, and you have already gathered that rapport that you need, so they look like a seamless portion of personnel that you are with.
We have a question here about personal high-value items. We have a viewer who had a experience of needing 24 hours notice to evacuate their home. Do you evacuate high-value items such as artwork and things like that?
Yes. So as a company that loves to solve problems, which is what we do, we can, if you have locations that you already want those items, transferred to, easily make that happen with security personnel. Make sure that we take an inventory. If you don't already have an inventory, make sure that what it is that you want to get transferred or secured to a different location, we can definitely do that as well. If we needed to find a location for you, that is also in the playbook. And so all of those things can be done by reaching out to Grey Ghost and telling them what your needs are. And even then, if it's done ahead of time, we also like to do what we would call rehearse. So for us, it's rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. It's practice, practice, practice. And so when that time comes, we have already established what that plan is so that you are feel confident in the seamless transition of anything that you have asked us to do.
There's a question here about, are there any places in the world, political for other reasons, that you won't go? I think rather than listing a place that you won't go, I think it might be interesting to say the places you have been, like Burkina Faso and under what condition, North Korea and under what condition.
Okay, so I think I'll answer both of those. So there's nowhere that we won't go. However, there may be places that we will not be allowed to go. At any rate, we usually have personnel, or we find a way to get there. So places that I've been, so let's start with the continent of Africa. There are 57 countries in Africa. I've been to 47 of them. All of those countries were either in a crisis response, there were some type of elections, there was oil personnel that needed medical and protection. I've been to China, all over Europe, Bulgaria, Balkans, Asia all over, India. I think the only continent that I haven't necessarily actually put my feet on was Antarctica. However, we have planned for it.
Here's one. What are some of the things a high net worth individual can do to minimize their risk prior to traveling?
So for starters, keeping a low profile, having a what we would say a geofence around you from the start, understanding what your cyber footprint looks like. If you are I don't like to use the term, if you are a person of means, that means that you are going to have people looking at you. You are going to have people trying to find out where you are going and what your family members are doing. A lot of times when we look at that, it's not really just the principal, let's say, the matriarch of the family. It is those that are surrounding him, your children, your parents, so on and so forth, because it's what we call going from a known to an unknown. And so that way I would be able to find things about you based on what your children are doing on their websites. Also, we can make sure that we talk to medical professionals. We have that as Grey Ghost and its partners have the medical, as you have with Quintessentially as well, medical concierge service to ensure that you're staying up to date, understanding that if you have medical issues, the things that you can do beforehand. There are so many things that can be done before travel to mitigate risk. I would advise, you make that phone call and you ask those questions, and we can come up with some things surrounding your environment, your particular situation to answer those questions for you.
We have a question here about disasters and what kind of help you can provide in terms of hurricanes, earthquakes, and such. The question doesn't really specify if it's for individuals or institutions and government, so maybe you might want to cover both.
Okay. So when it comes to the individual, if, for instance, you are one of our clients, you are in an area that needs evacuation or is getting ready to come under crisis, we would be keeping you informed of that. We would pay attention to your footprint and know that these are things that need to be taken care of. We would, in most cases, have already told you that the situation is getting ready to happen based on our contacts and the things that we do on a normal basis. We would plan for, if you didn't already have a means to get out and get you back to one of your other locations if you have them, or get you to a safe other city or country. As far as governments, usually, that's when it gets a little bit more entailed. Are the airports still open? Are the airports closed? Is there a way that the government is already trying to help you? Again, we would have already done the homework, so to speak, to speak, with personnel that we know in the governments, to speak to other personnel within your government, figure out what's going on, figure out if there's a plan in place already, and let them know that we would be coming into the area to receive our clients and to get them to definitive care, because we would never want to go against a country's rules, laws, and regulations.
So we have a bit of a pause in the questions. Eric, is there anything you want to leave our guests with?
No, I would just like to say that, I really appreciate the time that all of you have spent. I know that, time again is valuable. I hope that you have been able to gain some insight into what we do, why we do it, how much we love to do it, and that, for any needs that you have, please don't hesitate. And it really doesn't have to be us. That is not what I'm saying here, as much as I would like that. We're here to help. We're here to help solve problems. And I know that spending various amounts of time with well-to-do individuals, political personnel, that everything is not the same. As we say, if you've been to one embassy, you've been to one embassy.
It looks like we have one more question. Are you keeping abreast of and informed of political situations in countries so that you may have people in place?
So when it comes to that, depending on where we are monitoring at the moment, so usually it's based on our clients and where they have business or where they have properties. And so as we monitor those situations, we let the clients know, again, include them in the planning process. And so if we need to have personnel there, then we would do that. However, because of our communications with embassies around the world, we receive messages, we stay in concert. All of these are above board. We're not asking them anything that is of a secret nature. And in most cases, we just have individuals that will just send myself or any of our staff information to just say, hey, just to give you a heads up. And so we're monitoring the world, some because of clients and some just because we like to pay attention to what's going on everywhere.
Okay, I think this concludes our video presentation. Thank you, Eric Gray. Thank you to everyone at Quintessentially. If you'd like more information about what Eric Gray does and what Graygo's capabilities are, you can go to graygosolutions.com or talk to your lifestyle manager. Everyone be safe out there. Have a great day.